Yo, what is up guys? Fox here today, and I have another Necrolord damage guide. I kind of want to talk about some things that I get asked a lot in stream, my comments, and also I want to show this new I don't know if it's a new interaction, but this interaction with Savager plus Feral Frenzy, and it's really important that I want to make a video on it because it does change on how we do damage, and it's much different from the video I showed previously where I did have another guide on how to do damage as a Necrolord. So I felt like I want to add this new video in as kind of an update on some things I've learned and some things I just want to share to you guys. Starting off, let's talk about the talents. And I get asked which is better, Soul of the Forest or Savager. In my opinion, I think they're both very, very good. I do recommend, however, to practice with Savager because I think it's really fun and satisfying, and I think you get a lot out of it. The 15% damage increase to your, or the 15% damage increase bonus that you get from Savager is really good. It basically just increases your damage, and it's a nice buff to have. But there's a con, and it's actually keeping up the buff a lot. I think it can be very clunky, and a lot of ferals who've talked to me about Savager think it's very clunky, and I agree. It can be very clunky, and balancing out cloning, survivability, healing, plus Savager can be very tough, and it may not feel like the smoothest experience. So that's why Soul of the Forest is still a viable option. I think if you are able to play Savager and you're able to keep it up, I think it's a very good option. But if you don't want to be bothered and just want to have a consistent passive talent, Soul of the Forest is still very good. I've seen ferals play Soul of the Forest and prefer Soul of the Forest and do very, very well. Some ferals, on the other hand, play Savager and still do very, very well. At this point, I think it's pretty much almost a playstyle thing and what you prefer. They're both very good options. I just prefer Savager because, again, I like keeping the buff up, and it just feels satisfying to press. Right. So another thing I want to talk about is Drought. A lot of the time I ask, or you get asked, is it bad to double dot with Drought? And in my opinion, I say no. There is this big misconception where if you play this legendary, you can't double dot. And that's not true. You can actually double dot and still do good damage with this legendary. Obviously, if you are going to be a person that's going to maintain double dot uptime at 100% capacity or close to it, it's not going to do as much for you. You're going to lose a lot of value. But if you need to swap on targets or swap on hots, then it's fine. Like, obviously it's not going to be the best in terms of double dotting pressure, but it's still fine to do. Dots fall off, and eventually in a game you're gonna always end up killing one target anyways. I know from personal experience when I fight Resto Druids, when you gotta swap on Hot, swap on Cenarian Ward, it's good to double dot because it taxes the healer's mana and makes it hard for the Resto Druid to heal effectively and efficiently. And I do it with Drought. My damage is still very, very high, and at the end of the game when we're about to land the kill, I always end up killing one target anyways. It's still good to do. Just make sure you don't do it to its full capacity. Again, if you're going to be doing it 100% or close to it, you'll lose a lot of value. But I just want to say it's still fine to double dot as Drought. Okay, so for the final thing, it's Savager and Feral Frenzy, right? When it comes to this interaction, we know that Savager and Adaptive Swarm are dynamic buffs. So what this means is you can put a bleed up on a target, Savager, and your bleed will be buffed. It works with Adaptive Swarm and Trinket procs. The only buffs you gotta snapshot with are Tiger's Fury and Blood Talons. But someone in my Discord talked to me about this, and you have to have a Savager before Feral Frenzying. And I'm not sure if that is a bug or an intended interaction, but it changes the opener a lot, because how I opened before is I would Feral Frenzy then Savager, but with this new information you want to ideally Savager and then Feral Frenzy if you want to squeeze out that extra damage. So this is a Feral Frenzy with Savager applied right after. Feral Frenzy, Savager, And you can see the ticks are hitting for 2.3k for the max on normal hits, 4.7k on crits. If you want to know if this affects your bleeds such as Rake and Rip, it doesn't. You can still Rake and Rip and Savage Roar right after, and they should still be buffed. But for whatever reason, this interaction is a thing with Savage Roar and Feral Frenzy only, and now you always want to have a Savage Roar up before Feral Frenzy. And it's really important in the opener because you want a Savage Roar pretty much right before your Feral Frenzy if you want to get that damage output out. So let me build up a couple of combo points. Got a Savage Roar back up. Savage Roar is up before. We'll Feral Frenzy. And we can see that for the crit, it's hitting for 5.5k, and for normal hit on the max, it's 2.7k. So there is a difference, and it's important to know because if you want to squeeze out as much damage in your Feral Frenzy burst windows, especially in the opener. So with that all being said, let's show you the opener and I guess a bit of an updated damage priority, some things you want to think about with all this new type of information. So this is how you typically open majority of the time. Like, this is an ideal opener. It's not gonna always happen, but you should try to aim for it. So you go to your target, you rake, you'll press Savage Roar if you're Savage Roar. You Tiger Fury, Frenzy, Swarm, Berserk, Rip, Rake before TF falls off, Moonfire, get to 5 combo points, re-put up Savage Roar, and just shred spam to like 5 combo points. You can add in a stun, a bite. See, my dots are about to fall off, they're like at 10 seconds. Definitely want to keep those up. If you have a clear casting proc, it's always ideal to use it on Shred. You can also press Thrash, but it doesn't really do that much damage, so Shred's usually the go-to with clear casting. And yeah, this is pretty much your rotation. Like, here I can Swarm before Frenzy. It's a bit slow because I'm going slow, but yeah. The Feral Frenzy's like up, so I want to save TF and Swarm for it. And ideally in your burst, you want your Savage Roar up to be pretty much full capacity almost, and have a full row of dots. So I have Savage Roar, all my dots are up. You want to make sure you have a stun on your kill target, so Bash if you want, Tiger's Fury, Frenzy, Swarm. And here you can either maim or put up your bleeds again or bite. Usually it's better to maim off your first stun because you want to keep your target locked down so they can't use defensives. And that's pretty much all it is. It's just keeping up dots, lining up Frenzy and Swarm and TF plus Savage Roar. And yeah, it's just like a rinse and repeat cycle. It should look a bit faster than that, but I was just demonstrating step by step on how it should look like, kind of. Do you ever want to press Thrash? You can press it during clear casting, but that's about it. Thrash is pretty eh. You should always be pressing Brutal Slash as your main combo point. Generating ability. Press Moonfire when like it's about to fall off, and if you don't have Brutal Slash charges. Also, if you're running away too, it's a good idea to press Moonfire to build up combo points. So by the time like you actually can run in, you can have full combo points. You just rebleed the target without having to Brutal Slash or whatever. So that's like a really huge benefit of playing Lunar Inspiration. I know. I think you guys should clip that. I think that's like the best demonstration I've done on how to do damage actually, so yeah. Alright, before we end off the video, I kind of want to leave you guys with a little bit more some tips and tricks with Necrolord. They're not really damage focused, but they're definitely important to know because it can come in clutch in very, very important situations, or dire situations rather. And it involves using Fleshcraft and Adaptive Form to heal. So starting off with Fleshcraft, if you have this conduit, you definitely want to put it in this like second row, because in the starting room what you're going to do is you're going to switch to this Conduit and go in bear form with Strength of the Wild up. So in this way, your health in bear form will be increased by a good bit. You're then gonna BM Fleshcraft, and you're gonna get about a 34 to 36k absorb shield, which is insane in the opener, because if a team can't open hard on you, they have to break that shield first. So if teams go you with this huge shield, they're not gonna kill you pretty much. Like you have almost a second HP bar, and most of the time you're not a target. So which is really good, because then you can focus on damage and not have to worry about what's it called, surviving in the opener. So what we're gonna do is, in the starting room, you wanna switch to Earthsign Vigor if you have it. If not, you can still do this, but this is just adding more on to the effect. So switch to this Conduit, Bear Form, Battlemaster, Fleshcraft, and boom, you should have around 34 to 36k shields. I'm a Tauren, so I have more HP, but 34 to 36k, it's huge. It's a really big amount. It makes the biggest difference ever. Then before the gates open, you definitely want to switch to your potency path here. And during the middle of the game, Fleshcraft and BM are going to pop back up, and if the enemy team is for some reason chasing you, or you're trying to kill you, and you need some defense, but you don't want a wall, or you have no walls or bark skin or healing, what you can do is literally cast a clone, get kicked on purpose. You don't have to fake it, just get kicked on purpose. Ideally get all the kicks. Once that happens, just go in bear form, BM again, Fleshcraft, and you should have a big shield. It's obviously not going to be as big as the one in the starting room, but it's still big enough to where you're going to be fine for a while. It makes the biggest difference ever, having a really good Fleshcraft up, or a really high Fleshcraft up. Alright, so on to the next two tips. It's about Adaptive Swarm healing, and basically the healing on you with Regrowth and Frenzy Region are going to be increased if you have an Adaptive Swarm on yourself. If you have an Adaptive Swarm on an ally, Regrowth healing will be increased, the direct healing. So if I regrowth myself, I see that I'm hitting for around like 6k, 6.7k as a normal hit. And if I regrowth here, with Adaptive Swarm up, I go to a 9k regrowth direct heal, which is a huge difference, especially if you're playing Strength of the Wild and you have to heal your teammate when they're very, very low. Like, it's crazy big. Like, I swear I've topped so many of my teammates by just swarming them and regrowthing them with Strength of the Wild, and it's crazy how hard I can, or how fast I can top them in like 1 or 2 heals. It makes the biggest difference. I'm not sure if this is intended or not, but it's something that it's important to know, because it can come in very, very clutch in certain situations. So the last one is the Frenzy Regen. It's basically the same thing. If you Frenzy Regen normally, we can see that it takes for around 7.9k. We swarm it up, and it'll probably be outside of arena, or right now, be around like 10k. And again, it's a really, really good thing to do when you have no defensives, no Fleshcraft, and you just need to somehow top yourself and keep yourself alive. Frenzy Regen is one of the biggest, I think it's probably the most important defensive cooldown for a Feral Druid right now. And knowing this trick can make the biggest difference, especially when you have no defensives and no one has any defensives on your team. So basically, again, you just Fleshcraft yourself, not Fleshcraft, but Adaptive Swarm, and you regen up, and you should be hitting for a 10k tick. This is outside of arena and PvP, but it makes a difference. And again, in those like not clutch, but situations where you need to live. So yeah, so those are some tips that are very important to know that I don't think a lot of people talk about, but can come in very, very useful whenever you play. And I hope you guys learned more things about Necrolord. I'm learning more about the Covenant, and as more as I learn, I will share all the information I have with you guys. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.